Hey, welcome back. Today we're continuing our discussion of Monkey, the abridgment of the great classic Chinese work Journey to the West by Wu Cheng'en. Last time we talked about the hero's journey and about this as a spiritual journey that our characters are going to need to develop some moral maturity on their way in order to accomplish their task. We also see that Tripitaka has begun collecting his disciples, and he's got his horse and monkey at this point. But there are two more disciples he has yet to pick up. And this is also the point at which Whaley begins to leave sections of the book out. There are a few episodes that happen before all of the companions are finally collected on the journey. But Whaley jumps straight to picking up Pigsy and then picking up Sandy. Today, instead of telling the whole story, I'd like to just hit a couple of the highlights and then focus on the characterization. In chapters 16 and 17 of this version, Monkey and Tripitaka and the dragon horse arrive at a farm, the Cow Farm. And Mr. Gao has a problem, because a monster has married his daughter. You see, he was looking for a good husband for his daughter, someone who would work the farm for them and continue to live with them and take care of them. But along came this sort of rough-looking man, but, you know, he was a hard worker and he seemed nice and all. Turns out he eats a whole lot. He is a hard worker, though. And the farm has grown more and more profitable. But over time, they begin to notice that his features became more and more porcine. Yeah, it turns out that this is actually a pig monster who is disguising himself as a young man. And now they feel like they should get their daughter away from him, even though their farm has more or less profited off of his time here. And so Monkey thinks this will be a lot of fun. After all, he is something of an expert in driving off and beating up demons, and so he decides to transform himself into Blue Orchid, Mr. Cow's daughter. And so he looks exactly like her. They release the real Blue Orchid, and Monkey, in the guise of Blue Orchid, waits for Pigsy to come home. Pigsy comes home from the fields and he's like, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" And Monkey plays coy for a while and then says, "Oh, my dad just hired a demon hunter to get rid of you." "Oh, who was it? I can beat up anybody, no problem." It was that Sun Wukong character, the Monkey King." "What? Oh no! He's super powerful! I'm out of here!" "No, you're not!" Poof! Oh no! And Pigsy runs away. Pigsy and Monkey have this huge extended fight scene that lasts a really long time. Monkey has to chase him to his hideout. He leaves Tripitaka in the care of Mr. Cow. But in the middle of the fight, Monkey lets slip that he's a disciple of a scripture seeker. And Pigsy goes, "Wait a second! The Bodhisattva left me here to be a disciple of the scripture seeker too! I've been waiting here with fasting and abstention." "Yeah, sure you have, Pigsy. That's why you got married and are eating everything on the farm." "Okay." And so Monkey and Pigsy go back to Mr. Cow's farm, and Monkey shows that Pigsy has converted, and he becomes a disciple of Tripitaka as well. They continue on, and in chapter 18 they come to the River of Flowing Sands. Remember that one? They're just trying to figure out how to cross this impossible river, when all of a sudden out pops a monster, who then fights them. I was trying to pick a good character to be Sandy. It was kind of a hard choice. He usually is depicted as a strange-looking man with a giant beard. The book also says he has red hair, at least before he cuts it off. And so, I found this one! Yay! This is gonna be our Sandy. So Pigsy and Monkey fight! Poof, 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 ah! And it's this huge drawn-out fight, again. But Sandy is associated with water, and he keeps diving down under the water. And so Monkey sends Pigsy to fight him, because Monkey's not very good at fighting in the water. Wait, where did that detail come from? When do we find this out? Didn't he trounce like a whole bunch of Dragon Kings under the water? I don't know. This isn't a book to study closely for consistency. But from here on out, Monkey's going to have this water weakness, which gives Pigsy something to do, because otherwise Monkey's ridiculously powerful. Since Pigsy used to be Marshal of the River of Heaven before he got turned into a pig, he's gonna do a little bit of river fighting. And so Pigsy and Sandy go at it for a while, and Pigsy tries to lure Sandy up onto the shore so that Monkey can help out, and just when they get close, there appears Monkey, and it doesn't work. Sandy keeps disappearing and hiding every time they get close to him. Pigsy and Monkey finally realize that they're not going to get the best of him, so they go tell Tripitaka what's going on. And Tripitaka starts crying. "I'll never get across the river." Yeah, Tripitaka. And so they say, "Don't worry, we'll go find Bodhisattva Kuan Yin and ask her what to do, because she's supposed to be, you know, making sure this trip happens correctly." And so they fly to the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva Kuan Yin gives Monkey a magic gourd to go take and give to the monster, because it turns out the monster is none other than Sandy, the other disciple who is supposed to be converted. Notice a pattern here? Every time we come across somebody, we just start beating them up, And then somewhere along the way we were like, oh wait, we're supposed to be friends. Oh yeah. So they arrive, and Sandy's very sorry that he was fighting them, and he's ready to be a disciple, and using the magic gourd and the 9 skulls that are wrapped around Sandy's neck, they combine them into a magic boat that allows them to sail across the river. Yay! So, a couple of wild episodes, but we finally collect all of our characters. Now, Tripitaka, his 3 disciples, and the Dragon Horse will continue on to India. Before we continue on, though, I'd like to talk about a couple of big ideas. The first is allegory. Now, an allegory is a story in which all the parts are symbolic for some big idea. A lot of literature contains big symbols. For example, I've just finished teaching and studying the Scarlet Letter, which, if you remember, has all these huge symbols in it. The Scarlet Letter itself, the rose bush, pearl. An allegory, on the other hand, is when an entire story is symbolic for something. A few you might be familiar with. John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, which is a story about a guy named Christian who's trying to get to the Celestial City. And along the way he meets things like the Giant Despair. Those are very clearly symbolic stories, where everything in it is focusing on conveying one other meaning. Is Monkey, or Journey to the West, an allegory? Is it a big story to convey a symbolic meaning, perhaps a spiritual meaning? Well, it's very possible, and it's possible that it could be an allegory for more than one thing. For instance, several people have interpreted the main characters in different ways. Tripitaka as the leader is very central, of course, to the story, but each of his disciples might represent an aspect of Tripitaka that he needs to resolve before he can achieve enlightenment. Monkey, with his cleverness and his tricks, is the mind. Pigsy, with all of his desires, is the appetite. Sandy's a little bit harder, but a lot of people connect him with the soul. It's also possible to interpret this book as an exploration of social class in China during this time. Each of the characters could represent a different class, and all together they make a unified whole able to accomplish something. Monkey, the clever scholar, strategizing and figuring everything out. Pigsy is already associated with farming and agriculture. Sandy is more associated with religion and the priestly class. And the horse, who hardly speaks throughout this story, could be the serving class. Each of these ideas is interesting to me. I'd like to take a few minutes to look at the way these characters are described, their physical descriptions, and how those seem to reflect symbolism with them. Now, as I've mentioned several times on this series, I'm no expert, and this is just me, as an English teacher who likes to read symbolism into things, interpreting these characters. It's definitely beneficial for you as a reader and a studier of this book to look at the physical features yourself, look at the way the characters are portrayed and described, and come up with your own interpretation. For now, I'm just going to show you my process, but before I do, I recommend you pause and figure it out for yourself. And then come back maybe and see what I've said. Let's start with Monkey. He's got a lot going on. First of all, he is a monkey, and monkeys are known for being tricky and playful, but also very clever. That's why he's often associated with intelligence. His physical features are described throughout the book and show up all over the place. Other than the normal simian features, he has his special glowing eyes, which he got when he was in the crucible of Lao Tzu. Those glowing eyes set him apart from other monkeys and other characters. They both empower him, but they also show him as a demon. And a monkey with glowing eyes is pretty scary. He also has magic hair that he can transform into anything, indicating his power. I mentioned last time when he got a new outfit. He has the tiger skin pants and the shirt of Tripitaka's, and those two are sewn together. Tiger skin is associated with power and fierceness, and Monkey is definitely fierce and courageous and powerful. But that same cloth is sewn together with the cast-off of Tripitaka. It is the priest's robe, showing both his dependence upon Tripitaka for his ultimate redemption, as well as his need to take that fierceness and weave it in with something else. There is his incredibly powerful staff, which separates him from a whole lot of other warriors, making him very, very special. There's also the 3 magic hairs that Kuan Yin gave him. Remember that? And although all of his hair seems to be magical, these 3 special hairs show a couple of things. Number 1, his dependence upon divine help. He's not all-powerful, even though he would like to be. But also, number 2, that he does have divine help. Kuan Yin is defending him and taking care of him every step of the way. What about the band on his head, the fillet. It shows that he is not independent anymore, and that he must submit himself to authority. Notice the balance between images that show his power and other images that show his need to submit and change if he's going to be redeemed. All of these disciples, and even Tripitaka if we look closely, need redemption. Okay, let's look at Pigsy. Pigsy has several features that demonstrate him as a pig, and a pig is clearly an animal of appetite. So it's not too difficult to make that connection. But also, he's not just a cute little pig. In fact, in the book it describes his tusks, his bristles, his huge ears. All of his pig features are emphasized as being monstrous. He's not a cute little pig, he's a monster pig. A monster boar. Again, showing that he is a fallen creature that needs redemption. His outfit is a little bit different from Monkey's. He doesn't wear priest robes. Instead, he wears a jacket that he got from Mr. Cow, so a farming jacket. He has a handkerchief, and some shoes. What's his weapon? It's a rake! This is a muck rake, or a farming rake. Again, emphasizing him as a working kind of person. And although Pigsy definitely has a weakness in his appetites, he does have the strength of hard work. And in fact, working hard is his best chance, ultimately, at redemption. Even his name in Chinese, the 9 Prohibitions Pig, shows that he needs to work on restricting himself and holding back his appetites, something that he's definitely not good at. Also, did I mention that his rake has 9 prongs? You've probably seen the number 9 showing up again and again in this book. That's because the number 9 is very lucky. It sounds like a word for long life. And so the number 9 sort of sets the characters apart as being special. Pigsy's 9-pronged rake gives him that little extra bonus. What about Tripitaka? Tripitaka has his special cassock and hat, and his 9-ring staff. Again, the number 9 setting him apart as fortunate. His outfit also was given to him by Kuan Yin, showing that he has divine sanction for his journey. He also has a golden beggar bowl, which might feel a little bit ironic to some of us, because I mean, who's going to give money to a person begging with a golden bowl? But it was a gift from the emperor, and it shows the value of his priesthood, because begging for alms is an important part of being a Buddhist priest, as well as his imperial sanction for this journey. He also, incidentally, has how many toes? One of them got bitten off by his mom way back in an earlier episode, and so now he has 9 toes. That not only sort of sets him apart and marks him for greatness, but it also gives him a fortunate number of toes. He also cries a lot, which shows his need for growth. What about Sandy? Sandy is my favorite, although he's maybe the least dynamic character in this book, with the exception perhaps of the dragon horse. He has so much symbolism to him. When he arrives, listen to the description. Suddenly, a monster of horrifying aspect came surging through the mountainous waves. His hair was flaming red. His eyes were like 2 lanterns. At his neck were strung 9 skulls, and he carried a huge priest staff. Like a whirlwind, he rushed straight at the pilgrims. He has these big, glowing, terrifying eyes. He's got red hair. Who in China has red hair? So clearly his red hair marks him as monstrous and separate. His glowing eyes mark him as monstrous. It's a little bit hard to identify what he is. Sometimes he's identified as a fish monster because he's associated with water. Something strange happens with Sandy, though, that doesn't happen with the rest of the characters. Sandy's the one who most specifically gets a haircut. He's always depicted as bald in the story after his shaven head. But I would argue that Sandy's the one who gets the most explicit haircut. When he stands before Tripitaka and dedicates himself to Tripitaka and to religion, Tripitaka asks Monkey to shave his head. And so all that monstrous red hair goes away. He also has skulls. The skulls of people that he's eaten, as we've seen way back in Chapter 8. But those skulls are then used for a redemptive purpose. They are what carry the scripture seeker across the obstacles to get him to India. Penance, redemption. Plus Sandy's name. His name is Sandy Priest in this version, or Sand Awakened to Purity in Chinese. His name is associated with sand, or the grit and dirt that you get on you, but it's been purified and cleansed. His water association itself is a purifying kind of image. Water throughout different religions is associated with purifying. And his staff is a priest staff, even though it's a really scary looking bladed staff. So although all of these characters represent the need for redemption and the path towards redemption, monstrous background, but with a goal towards purity, Sandy is, of all of them, the most explicit. Thanks for watching! Next time we will start our real journey as we begin traveling through all the obstacles on the way between China and India. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.